All right, welcome back. I'm even calling this my very first foray at doing anything frame buildy in 5 years, since 2020. And I am setting up the new shop, and I have this gun rack. I want a shelf to hang down from here to hang my rolls of the Emery cloth. And so I decided to make my own. Before I made my own gun rack style thing, I just had it drop down another foot and just drilled 2 holes through the wood. And it was really ugly, it was super simple. This time there's this free gun rack, and it's already stained, it'll look good, and I was like, yeah, I'll just use that. So, one problem leads to another one. I decided to use some rear dropouts. I bought a big piece of this just steel strap from the hardware store next door earlier, and I hacksawed it down and cut and bent it in half. I think I took some pictures, I'll probably overlay them. And then I went to the bike farm, and they had this cool old Motopicon Champion, nice bike, probably has good tubes, I'm assuming, nice chromoly. Oh, I see a triangle sticker, probably Reynolds 531. Can't be dropouts. This is a pretty hot bike, but it had a big giant crack right in the back. Right here, it's all bulged out and split. These tubes are old and brittle. So I decided to hack them off. As you can see, I cut and mitered and filed and held everything up and found the angle I like. And I'm brazing one of the rear dropouts onto one piece of this angle that I made. And now I'm going to do the other one. I wanted sort of a proof of concept. It's cooling right now, I'm a little impatient. And I'm going to take it out and hold it up and see if it's what I like. And if so, I'm going to make the other one from scratch right in front of you for this video. So it's kind of frame builder-y. It's for frame building. I'm not actually making a frame. I'm making some furniture, I guess, like a paper towel holder, basically. So bear with me. So this thing is still nice and toasty. I don't know if any of you guys saw that video of Tom Ritchie brazing some handlebars on his lap and going around to the maid show. I don't know how he does that. Stuff gets warm. So here is the concept, shelf bracket. I'm going to drill a couple holes, bolt this onto the shelf. The shelf is still a total mess with no room to actually do any work, but you know, whatever. So I'm going to bolt this on up against this wall, up against here, sticking out at least an inch farther than I actually need. And then I got this piece of all thread to act like an axle. It's a long piece of 3/8 all thread with some nuts, and bolt it down tight on this side. Maybe one on the other side so it doesn't pop out. Or, I mean, I don't have a zillion rolls, I only have a couple of rolls. If I want to be a total psycho, maybe I should use an old axle and a quick release or something. Sounds like a bunch of work, but you never know. I think it's cool. It looks good. I did it in the vise, so we kind of line the jaws up with the face to make sure the face is pretty much straight, so the rear end is actually kicking out like a rear end would kick out. I mitered these things with a bit of an angle and stuff to get them where I wanted. What I should have done is mark the other one before I braze this one in. So now we have to do it a little bit trickier. Oh, I don't really have any good spot to put down a hot thing. I got one little metal plate that came on a wheel truing stand that is pulled off. And I don't need it there, but I sure could use it here. Cool. Cool out, baby. Oh, I don't need this on anymore. I've tried brazing in brazing glasses, blind and over my glasses, and get shots of light in. I finally bought this full-on hood, I don't know, in 2015 or 16 or something. And it's been amazing, except it's actually kind of cold in here. This place isn't heated at all. And it's just fogging up the front, so we can barely see what I was doing. So we'll see. And it looks pretty good now that I have the lens up. Now, everything's dirty, and I don't want to get anything dirtier. I'm going to my flux full of dirt. So put a little bit of stuff away. Here is the other guide. It is just rough bent, rough cut. I figured out where I want the other one to line up. So I want it to line up this little circle I drew with. I just held a washer up over that and trace of the Sharpie. So it's going to line up here. This guy's going to line up pretty close to the bottom. So it's about roughly where I got to cut it. Line it up with this dude. Looks good. This one's already like almost too short. Not that anyone's gonna hold up a measuring tape and notice. Oh, it is a little shorter. Dang. Well, that one's too long. So I'm just gonna file this one. I'm gonna use the same trick. I'm just gonna hold up a washer on this piece of metal and just kind of make some Sharpie marks there. I'm just gonna file until I can't see those Sharpie marks anymore, and maybe round it a little more. I think I really did round it a little more. You know, once you get a filing, you get pretty excited. Clamp this dude in my nice vise. I've always been too afraid to use because it's too nice. Mangle it with a frame building. I forgot to bring more hacksaw blades over. So I have one real dull hacksaw blade on my Armstrong Built Manufacturing Co. Marvel frame number 12, Chicago, USA. Crazy old hacksaw that I absolutely love. Always use unbreakable Marvel blades. See, it's all nice, tells you what blade to use, even though they probably haven't made those in 50, 60 years. It's got this cool like brass toothed bushing. It looks really old handle. Like this thing's cool. This thing's a little bit dull. Cut it a little bit long on that Sharpie mark. Get over the edge of the hacksaw where it's less dull. Put this guy up out of the way. Away with thee! Put my hacksaw up on my screw. Drop all the stuff. Now I like to clamp pretty low in the vise. The higher you get, the more the hacksaw and the more the file is just going to sing and scream and make tons of noise. I am sharing this paper thin wall into a retail space. I don't want them to get mad at me. This is the best file of all times. This is a giant Harbor Freight file. This is like $10 for this, and a half round I love, and a giant rat teller, giant file set. I highly recommend it. Everyone tells you have to buy really expensive fancy files. It's crazy. Medium files don't seem any better than this and wear out just as fast. I've maybe gone through like one set of these a year. Maybe. Sometimes I have a dull an area, just work in a different area. So, you know, you can be a cheapskate and get away with it, especially if you're an amateur, especially if you're not working full-time in a factory. Like, don't. There's a big problem people are finally starting to talk about in the frame building world of everything being way too fancy. Giant machines and industrial stuff and all this stuff to make bikes. And I got into frame building because I was like, dude, oxyacetylene tank and torches, brass rods, some silver. You could do this in mini shack shed behind your house with a door open for light, you know, with like no power at all. You can get a hand drill if you really want to. I like a little drill for actually drilling vent holes and stuff. That'll come later. So this I'm going to round and make look pretty. It's very tight in here. Try to put my drill press as far away as possible. I got my vise out on like a 2x7 sticking out, you know, 8-9 inches, so I can get around it and behind it and be able to work on stuff the angle I like. Barbara. This is a big, really sharp file. It takes a lot of metal off really fast. Trying to go even, you keep your file moving so you don't get weird chunks, low spots, stuff. I'm back at the back camera angle again a bit. See anything, kind of? Doesn't want to start because of the sharp, rough edge. I'm find a different angle, knock off that rough edge, and now probably start easy. Come up a little higher, just so I can sort of get around it, keeping that file moving. Not just filing at one spot, like we're keeping it nice and round, and keep things round. And then see I skated off and hit my vise. That happens. Be careful, you get better at it. All right, file E. Take some of my Emery cloth, which is not easy to access and hanging up. Clean it up. You can go to a finer file, really. Wrap your Emery cloth around. You can take the finer file and clean it up because it'll make these filing scratch marks disappear, get it flatter, and show your high spots. But I feel like I would do this later or never. This is not something anyone's paying me for. It could be practice nice without being really nice. Do the other side as well. Looks pretty matchies. There's another smaller file. It's like more in between. Hear that little singing for a second. Sometimes these things will scream. So this is another Harbor Freight little kit. Came with 4 or 5, little square one, little half round, little rat tail, a few bucks. Don't go online and spend $70 on a single file, because I think you need to. But this racket. And maybe we'll clean these up more after it's brazed. Ugh, I got some sticker residue. I should have just made a whole nother one of these from scratch. And it is definitely lopsided. This side's much tighter curve than that side. Do we care? A little bit, alright. Everything's just extra work. But really, you should be driven mad by it, want everything to be perfect. You won't get it perfect. You can't get it perfect. You should do as good as you can. That's how you get better and better and better. See, lots of guys too lazy to finish their mistakes and they never get better. Now that looks a lot more roundy and even. Still not perfect. That's a little better. Sticker glue on here. Let's see if we can get rid of it. So this is called the frame builder's thumb. It's a little trick. You can hold the Emery cloth up to wherever you're sanding with your thumb and pull it through. So the soft cloth side is against your thumb and the sandpapery side is against the material you're sanding. That's so sticky. I have goo gone, I have stuff. Can I just sand it off? This one's already pretty dead. This is cheap Emery cloth. I already did the other side. Just making a mess. It's that fresh piece. Oh yeah, that's taking it off. You can see the metal getting scratchy and sandy and clean. I just don't want this goo. It's already gooing up the Emery cloth. I just don't want this goo to fold the Emery cloth over my hand, so I'm holding both grit sides. It doesn't slip too much. But I just don't want this goo to, start smoking and burning when I'm brazing and just stink the shop up too much. There's some gone. Now we're going to frame builder's thumb at the top where we're actually brazing. Get any industrial lubricants or preservatives or rust out your way. Nice. Do the other side as well, even though I'll have to clean it a little bit more because we haven't even mitered the other side yet. Still see some low spots. Alright, this is technically clean enough. It's about ready, heavy. This thing isn't red hot anymore. I got me a Sharpie. Got me a stay. Want these guys to be about the same. Doesn't really matter. It's not a frame. It's just, a rack. Okay, I already got a Sharpie cut line over here. Bring a nice cut line over here. I'm going to cut a little bit on the long side of this mark so that I don't cut too far. It's suddenly too short. These things have the long dropouts, which I like. So worst case, if this ends up being a millimeter or two too short, I can just turn that drop out a little bit more. And it'll still sit nice and level under there. If I hung the gun rack level, if I get these hung level, if anyone ever noticed some crooked old sandpaper rolls being level, you know, not sweating it too much. This thing's really starting to cool down and dry. You can really see the fillets. My first fillets in 5 years, I was pretty happy. I really couldn't see this thing get hot. It's the new torch, so a little head, a little tip. I was trying to be patient because I felt like it was taking a little while longer than I thought. But I got it, once I put it in, it flowed out real nice. I did braise it from the outside in. I'll do the other one, but sometimes with something like this, I'll actually take like a drill bit, find a bit that easily fits inside the tube, and then I'll wrap the brass around the bit to make a little spring, a little coil. It's exactly the right size to slide into the tube. And then you can just heat the whole thing up and watch when it gets up to temperature. Watch the brass just bloop, just melt out and make a little line. It's really satisfying to watch that. And we'll do some of those one of these days. Now this is a wooden block. Every once in a while, a really cool frame builder will go ahead and commission someone to get a bunch of hardwood and cut a bunch of these blocks. I have them for every tube size, including rack sizes. And this one's cool because it's on this little taper, so you can clamp tapering stays like this. So I'll go small. I'm going to line it up. This is a little bit of an angle, so I'm going to line it up kind of so the angle is straight up and down, so the whole piece is moved. That means I can hacksaw straight up and down instead of trying to hacksaw an angle, and I'm a lot better at hacksawing straight up and down. A little tighten, a little holdy, but I do want it this straight up and down, because this is probably not at a crazy angle, so I'm going to miter it, that line, and then we'll come in and we'll realize that one side's higher, one side's low, and we'll file it. So I'm lining up on my Sharpie line, pretty much up and down-ish, probably. I'm a little bit long, we'll do a lot of filing. Creep up on it. Cut up and down, kind of eyeballing the vise to cut parallel to the vise, parallel to the ground. It's a way easier to get a straight cut than a cut wandering everywhere. The Jenga, little extra tubies. The same thing over here, this line's like that. Maybe like that. Aha. Just sort of keep moving until you find your spot where stuff's not hitting the vise. Stuff's where you want it to be. It's pretty up and down. I am not all lined up. Don't just try and force stuff. It takes 2 seconds to rejigger it. It's a pretty extreme cut. See if it lines up at all. It needs to come in like a centimeter. That's all right. This bottom one is real close. Just a couple of file strokes to make it sit nice and flush against this flat plate. It's gonna be all it needs. So it's getting real close. I think we need to cut about the thickness of this off, 2-3 millimeters, get this up. I want to do the bottom first because I could change everything. Get one side perfect, then change the other side. All of a sudden everything's wonky on the front side again, your first side. So this guy, basically since the back off, it's going to be leveled out a little bit more than it is. The back and the outside of the dropout. So I got the high point and the outside here. I'm just going to file it flush while kind of aiming down to make it a little bit more. Get those high points kind of go away, but keep the thing pretty much flat with the file. I started like just trying to nick high points this way and that way. Also, the whole thing is like a wave. This is the slowest way of doing it. You can go buy a $5,000 mill and learn how to use machine tools and measure everything 3 times and put it in a mill, and probably it'll come out faster. Probably. But you don't have to, is the thing. Yep, and I don't like that at all. Now this side is definitely, this is so, come on man. Just sit on the flux and stuff, sliding around. I don't want to make this side any lower. It's already too low magically somehow. Just taking the high spot off. So this whole thing is going to sit just a little tiny bit off, not enough for it to be any kind of issue or noticeable. But we still have to get this big guy. Should I try and hacksaw it off just a little bit? It's just a little bit. A big file will make pretty short work of it. I think we're going to have to. This is too tight, too close. It's a terrible angle. No, it's terrible. I'm hitting the block. Why did I do that in the first place? It's up pretty high, it's probably going to screech. It's pretty level. You can see Sharpie marks on it still. I'm going to kind of go flat until I don't see the Sharpie marks anymore. I could have used the hacksaw and trimmed off, 3 millimeters or whatever. Run the risk of it running a little crooked and coming in too hard, or still have to do some filing. This file is such a big boy. It is such a big boy. It cut through that so fast. Still want to come back some more, but it's mostly a high spot. So I mostly just want to level it out even more. Just a few more file strokes. A lot of guys count their file strokes too. If you're putting even pressure and doing the same strokes, you're real good at it. You can just go like, oh, this side, try to make matching sides. You're like, oh, this side needs, count it, like 10 file strokes on there. So the other side, instead of take it off 3 times, just do 10 file strokes and check it once. That is pretty dang good. It's almost too good. This thing's still sitting pretty nice. I know which side's the top and which side's the bottom. Oh. Alright, this side is the top. I'm going to Sharpie a little arrow up, a little T, a little B down here. As much as you can to not screw up, and see how bad you still screw up somehow. Just knocking this guy in here. I'm going to start setting it on here and getting a feel for it. I would like these tubes to sit perfectly flush against this metal so I can get the best penetration, the best miter. So I might need a little bit of tweaking. Take off a little high spot here or there. This bottom one, it's going to be too low if I take off that spot. So I'm just going to leave the high spot on there and just use extra brass. No one's riding this. It can be a little sloppy if this is your stem. It needs to be perfect no matter what. I'm trying to make a 90 millimeter stem. And it's a little off. I can either start all over again, or I can just file it until it fits perfect, and then maybe it's an 88 millimeter stem instead of a 90. Whatever. So that's, always an option. Or start over. Alright, of course why this tricky. This thing widens out. This thing's flushy and liney-uppy. How are we looking? I want that to happen. I have to miter the inside of this to still sit flush. Hit the center, sit flush, have this drop out, basically in line with those jaw faces. How's the bottom looking if I do that? Cray cray, it's got the high spot on the back. I'm gonna miter this. I'm gonna miter this outside edge. It's already a little high. So I'm gonna miter it just a little bit just so this thing's sitting boop, square like it would be if it was on a bike. Just making a little Sharpie mark so I know where I'm at, so I don't get lost. It's so easy, like, oh, I see where I'm going to file, and you get it all turned around, put it in here, and you go, yep, and then you file the wrong side. I've done that a bunch. Nope. Come on, to block. That. I'm still doing a couple of flat strokes to keep everything even, but focusing it on this side I want to come down. It's looking real good. While we're here, my Emery cloth at some, gets paint off. Has to happen anyways, and I want to be able to see it better. And burning paint isn't exactly awesome or fun. Top. Well, that's fine. I'm going to adjust every 5 seconds. Getting all the way around this vise. It's a little wobbly. Still need to take off. I think mostly just the back. It's still just a little high. Just too much of an angle. Get a little flatter. This big file takes off so much so quick. That's not perfect, but it's getting real good, except for I'm leaning in instead of out. So I still want to take this edge off. So the right one angle, this angle's right, but this angle is not. And this is real easy to creep and creep and creep up on something and make it shorter and shorter and shorter, but never get right and never get right, make it shorter and shorter and shorter, and never get right, never get right, and then all of a sudden you're too short. Let's take it back in here. It's so precise, the weight of its own handle messes it up. Yeah, just take it off. See it being high up there. Okay, this is the boring part of the video. We did the same step like 20 times in a row to get it perfect. I'm gonna edit out most of this, I guess. Alright, that's pretty dang good. Same thing, this guy's just a little bit of a high spot. I'm just gonna level it so it's not rocking. Maybe. It's more or less lined up with the. It's a lot more than less. I want it to be like. I want it to be even more. More out. About down here. What is this one? Oh yeah, this one was radically out. Barely hit this inside guy. Everything's where I want, but I want it to be more extreme. Get a little bit off, so it just sits more hanging out, more wide, like it would be in a dropout. I mean, in a frame. Calling that good enough. I'm spending way too much time on something that's not going to be ridden. And it's real close, and it's not going to matter at all. So next I clamp back in here, I want none of these, that one. A little round file. This old sandpaper. There's all sorts of burrs and stuff from filing this guy inside the tube. And a little rust and old tape. Also got deburring tools somewhere. It kind of works usually when things are at an angle. I'm going to wrap the sandpaper around the file. Just go around all over the inside of the tube. Just get rid of anything that could contaminate the weld. Mostly some old rust and dirt. That's probably good enough. This thing's so gross already. It's scratchies. This is some cheapo stuff. I'm using a lot of it. There's no paint. No paint. Within an inch or so. Probably do the other one from here, but we're going to do it from the top. Jump in line. Okay, I believe you. Same thing. This tube is much smaller. I like to have lots of sizes of files. Sure, I brought over my needle file set somewhere for getting for racks, little things. Trending. Pretty close. Real close to a few millimeters, right where the brass is going to be, and mostly clean. A few millimeters above that. It's fines. Sandy paint's the least fun part about frame building. That's why a lot of guys won't do mods. It wasn't pouring down rain, and I didn't have my jig and the only portable stand here. I'd maybe take it outside. Maybe take it outside and burn it. Burn the paint off. It's more fun, at least. Sweet. Cleaned up the brass. Silver would be a little cleaner, and it'd come in with rubbing alcohol. But for brass, just sandpaper's fine. Knock all that loose rust out. Oh, and there's a ton. Now we're going to jig this thing up like how we were when we started on the other one. Give me a vise to hold this guy. Take some not dead in my cloth. Clean up this thing a little bit more. It's got fingerprints all over it or something. Magnet only burned a little bit already. Set this bad boy up. I want this basically as high up as I can go. Basically. Try to get these tubes centered. And then I want to get my lean on. Still having the tubes basically centered. And the magnet still touching and holding. That looks pretty good. Pretty good. It's pretty lean. This is real delicate. You could use more magnets or do more stuff. Not use a burned magnet. I just bought it today for this. Can't believe I already burned it. Get the magnet just right. This is not being very magnetic at all. Let's try the other side. Might have burned it a little too much. Way better. Way better. More or less. Hey, you. First one works so easy. I'm going to try a little extra magnet in this. This will hold some stuff in place. That'll be a total nightmare. It might make it way harder and worse like it's doing. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Come on, man. I'm going to do some sketchy woo like this. Get this one on the top where we want it. We're going to get the bottom where we want it. We're going to attack the bottom. Then we'll remove this top magnet so it's out of the way so we can braze it. Hey, alright, pretty good. Lined up, I think this looks about right. Just about where I want it. This doesn't really matter so much. It's being held. There's a little room around here to get in here and tack and stuff before we remove that magnet. Oh! Not a lot of room to get in here and flux stuff, so I'm going to take the whole thing off. Magnets probably won't move. This is a paste flux. It's really the way to be, spilling it everywhere. Brushing some on the inside of the tube, a little bit on the outside of the tube. I want to protect this weld. Braze. Protect this braze. Upside down. It's easy to do. I brazed a whole rack upside down once. Customer wasn't happy. And we're back. Right about where we want it. What do I gotta do? And the other one was so easy. And this one is so bitchy. Magnets are too strong. Cool, can we not move? Only took, 2 whole minutes. Come down here, we're going to tack the bottom. Inside and out. Might fully braze it. Laziness, then we'll come up here and double check the top. So let's check this out. Oh yeah! Helmet time. Getting a little torch time. We're going to give it a little bit of gas, a little acetylene. Going to bring it out until there's no more flick at the tip. Going to give it some oxygen. Sharpen this flame. Get a little fiery little cone. Fiery little cone. Probably clean enough. Now I'm going to come down and I'm going to do the bottom because this plate steel we're using for the shelf bracket is real thick compared to the tubes. And a lot of it. So I'm going to heat it up. Get a little bit on the top, sort of turn the flux white and kind of boil the water out, and then it'll sort of hold better. Get this cone real close without getting too close when you push back, popping, or flux getting in the tip. Now we're just going to be patient. Watch the water boil out, fogging up this stupid mask. That's looking pretty hot. It's kind of red. Flux is moving around. It's hot enough to go. This was already breathing. Coming to the inside. Focusing on that steel plate, a little bit on the tube. And stuff looks like it's moving. Getting the next spot hot and getting up to that brass and pulling it back in. The brass will kind of follow the heat. And the magnet's on fire. As the other side cools down, it's sort of like a tack that's holding everything in place. This side more or less still looks good. That plate hot and that tube hot and the brass is flowing. Magnet, go away. All the way around, make sure brass is everywhere we want it to be. Nice little float out, fill it all the way around. And add some more just for fun. It's hard to see in this fogged up mask. There's plenty on there. Blow that magnet out. Now basically, in theory, this magnet is not hot and doesn't need to be there anymore. It's all lined up and this weld's holding it in place. Yeah, looks good. Same thing to heat the backside up. Nice and patient, don't go in too early. Late's better than early, but if you go too late, the flux will get burnt and brass won't flow anymore. So a little late, but not super late. Oh, it's starting to get red. Over here, do some tube action. I'm wearing my welding tubes up around my neck so I don't walk on them, step on them, and push them into shards of metal I just cut them and tear them. These are extra fine little tubes. Very expensive. Very fancy, too fancy for me, really. Focusing on that plate, but also a little on the tube, a lot on the plate, a little on the tube. Starting to get a little cherry. Definitely get brass, brass, brass. Take it, take it, take it. Come down here to that plate some more, a little up on the tube. And that brass is flowing all the way around. The tube's red hot, the plate's not. The tube's so much thinner. Trying to keep on the plate. Making sure the brass goes all the way around. Sometimes the flux likes to move and you like think it's brass, but it's just flux. Oh yeah, and I got a nice little blob. I got too much on, being paranoid, put more on. That looks good. That looks good. You can probably use like what? Like an inch of brass, maybe? It's very little, it's shocking. Turn the oxygen off, then turn the acetylene off. It's brassed up, it's all the way around. It looks pretty even and pretty. A little teeniest, tiniest, like more of a sweat, a baby fillet. Not trying to stack dimes, not trying to be fancy, just making it look nice. I'm glad I didn't drop that on my feet. That's fine. Just gonna let it cool for a minute. Check it out. Then I'm gonna drill a couple of holes in this thing so we can put a couple of screws in. And then I'm gonna screw it up under here and into this tool board. I'm gonna figure out how wide we want it. Sometimes I like to have 3 or 4 of these rolls on here. I like to have a couple of 80 grits. And sometimes I was doing finer stuff. I was using some, 100 or 120, 150, something like that. Maybe some 220. I don't really do that anymore. I really don't need this. This can actually be pretty narrow. I really could probably use an axle and a quick release. I really probably could. So now I gotta make that decision. Because mostly if I'm gonna use those finer bits of sandpaper, I really just take it right to the, I used to have a giant polisher, I'll probably get one again. Take it right over the polishing deburring wheel. Let that 3M deburring stuff do its magic. So doing 500 sandpaper steps to hide all the scratches. So you don't want to see scratches when you're sanding something. You've got to go, whatever you start with, your 80 grit, then you've got to cut that in half. So you can do like 80 is like 140. So you go 150, that's too much. You really might have to go 100, 120. Then you can cut that in half again and go 240, and then cut that in half again and go, 480 or 5. Like, if you skip too much of steps, you'll never hide the scratches. It'll always look like it was sanded. You really want to skip all the steps. You want to hide all the sand marks. So when you get to the final polishing stage, it looks like a mirror and perfect and beautiful. You can't cheap out. Those 3M deburring wheels, they are magic. You put them on the grinder thing and just like a super fine sandpaper, and they usually take all the scratches out with a nice medium to fine deburring wheel. And then I usually go with a coarse polish, like for stainless steel, even on aluminum, I go coarse polish, then like the copper polish for copper and aluminum, and then the fine like jewelry rouge. And it looks really good for a bike part. I had some jeweler friends like, you could go farther, but for a bike part, I'm like, this looks nice. I still see guys on Instagram do a lot of polishing and sanding, tons of sand scratches everywhere. They don't do the 3M deburring wheel. They don't do the 3M deburring wheel. They don't. They're missing a step or two with the sandpaper in there, and there's just tons of scratches. It's usually old guys. Their eyes aren't as good anymore. This looks good. The English on this looks good. looks good. Matching set of cool bookshelves. What are we going to do about drilling this out? We have to go get the drill in. So I'm probably going to go not do, 2 or 3. I'm probably going to do 1 and probably kind of in the middle-ish. Maybe a little more towards the edge, but I want to be able to get my drill in, get a nice angle. It's probably too much in the way for the drill press. I probably should have drilled these ahead of time, but fair enough. If I make another set of them, I'll kind of know where I'm going. It's a nice thing about doing the same thing over and over again. You sort of get repetitive and good and start figuring stuff out. So I'm going to go about here. It's pretty close, but I should still be able to get the drill in. Well, I'm worried about getting the screw in from this angle. And I'll probably measure that. Let's make it all the same. So, wow, that is exactly 2 inches. So let's go exactly 2 inches from here. What a good eyeball picking out exactly 2 inches. 2 inches, 2 inches, and I'll probably just go kind of right to the center. And I could measure it from the side and get the center too, but I'm just going to eyeball it. No one's ever going to check. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to go hit it with the drill anyways. The drill bit's going to wander because they're jerks. Okay, let's get this one over on this metal plate. Cool. Get away from anything to catch fire. Let's drill. And there's not really a good way of holding this or doing this now that everything's attached. Nope, nope. Everything about this is the worst. I really should have drilled first. Whoa. It's alright. Set her down here. Just clamp it on this face here. And it's going to be minorly sketchy, but totally fine. Now I gotta see if I can find my setter punch and my drills and blah blah blah. Got a few drill bits, real small one, fairly small one to start. This looks like a wood bit. I'm gonna grab something different. A medium one's big enough for the screw, and a little bigger one to chamfer the head just a little. Well, I can't really, because I'm drilling from this side. Let's just go small, medium. I don't need the big, and the small's all wrong. The center punch is like the cheap Harbor Freight brass one. It sucks, it's annoying, I don't recommend it. Spend $5 or $15 to get on the black ones or a Husky brand one, something good. Well, it's working now. That's all I got for now. Here's a super cheapo Harbor Freight drill set that I bought. Just couldn't find anything. They work new, so they're kind of sharp. Theory. Hey, alright! Let's step it up. You're really only supposed to step up like 2 sizes whenever you drill, if you don't want to dull and wreck your bits. So let's step up to the one that's stuck in here, doesn't want to come out. That worked great! Let's step up 2 more sizes. That one might be fat enough for the screw. Right through. Easy peasy. I've been using these gold screws for everything. They kind of match. They're gold. It's fun. That absolutely fits. That's perfect. Just gotta do that one more time and then go do the other side. Oh, sick. So we're just not being in the camera? Maybe. Sick. I'm just gonna do it the way I planned for now. basically a nut on each side of one of these dropouts to hold it pretty tight. I should be able to wiggle this out and loosen it up to put rolls on. That all might be a lie. I might have to get the whole thing out. Like whatever forever. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Marking with my new frame builder supply Sharpie. Cut this dude down to make it an axle. Do I have an axle vise? Do I have anything smart to hold this with? Not really. 3/8. Here's a steel tubing block I got. It's 3/8. It always puts a small dent in any tubes I clamp in it. It's an old 40s Chrysler brake line tool or something. The rest of the sizes work pretty good. Pretend to be left-handed so you can see it. Oh, I hate it. Cut, cut, cut. Now, if I had a bench grinder or something, I could just go have one. It's not really bolted down or plugged in or working. Let's just use it. It's sketchy. Totally sketchy. Ugh. Just doing metal fab and slippers. Okay, let's see if this plan works at all. Oh God, how do you even start cleaning up a bench like this? Okay, one box of 80 grit. Luckily all my stuff is on top of my boxes of sandpaper. You gotta have places to put stuff before you can have places to put stuff. Here's another box of 80 grit. And yet, another box of 80 grit. Maybe. Oh yeah. Oh no! I measured this to be long enough for the axle to sit in there, but maybe not. Maybe not to actually drop down and in. Oh! Oh, wait, that works. And one side at a time. In theory, tighten those guys down. They stick out away from the wall like 3 inches more than I anticipated, and it's not quite as low as anticipated. In theory, you can grab fresh 80 grit whenever you want. That one works great. The nice 3M one. This one's not even open. I don't know what's going on. One more thing that's now not in the way. It has its own place. Totally cool, more or less. And there's definitely room for their 2 or 3 boxes on here if I want to add some other grits and things. And it's hanging kind of out of the way. And it's easy to move, just screw, screw, screw. And it also made this shelf way more solid. So that's my little video. Thanks for watching, and more frame building stuff coming soon. I'm gonna order some more tips. This tip seems kind of small. Maybe it's the right tip. I don't know. I'm gonna order one smaller for silver brazons. This one maybe for general stuff. We'll see. Definitely a bigger one for 4 crowns. Maybe a couple of sizes up to 4 crowns. And I got a disc brake tab lined up, I got a set of candy bosses lined up, and I think I'm going to build a fork or 3 to play with these tips. Really make sure I can find the right tip I like, make sure I can pull enough heat and pull silver. Doing the fork crown to the steer tube is one of the hardest things you can do. It takes a lot of heat and you got to do it fast and for the flux. It's a big tip. I've wrecked a few trying to figure it out. I also want to give a shout out to old Bob Bantam. I stopped by, he shares a shop now with Frame Builder Supply, and I stopped by old Frame Builder Supply to pick up this gas flux silver paste and brass paste, and a 50N silver and a 56N silver, my 2 favorite sizes. And I got a couple of brazons and dropouts, not as much as I wanted. I still have the scratch. I'll make some dough first. Start getting stocked up. I'm so poor. But old Bob was there and he had a scratching post, and I said, hey, do you have an extra one of those? He said, like, I've been looking for one, but everyone's asking insane money for them. He goes, oh yeah, and he looked, he's like, oh yes, this isn't a valuable one, it's no name. Oh, the cheap ones go for like 30 bucks, how about 20? And I was like, yeah, thanks man. I pulled my wallet and I only had $11. He's like, that's cool. I can do PayPal. I was like, nah, $11 is fine. So thanks for Bob Bantam for hooking me up with tools. He was in there cleaning his whole shop. It was the dustiest mess I've ever seen. It looked like it had years of dust and frame grit and Emery roll grit. And about halfway done, it was like walking through a smoke cloud in there. And I told him, hey, if you find any more stuff you have doubles or triples of, you don't want me, you know, let me know. I'll probably buy it and rebuy it and everything. So maybe he'll find some more cool stuff. If you're not following Bob, he's been a pro frame builder for more than 20 years. He was like the head builder for Bolinky cycles in PA for a long time when he was young. He's been up here building. He was also one of the co-owners of a big nonprofit here. And not nonprofit, but like a worker-owned co-op-y thing. It closed recently, so Bob's going more full-time into the frames. He's been building forever, and it's very good. Just check out his stuff. It is cool. But my stuff's coming back, and it's going to be cooler. Wait and see. Thanks for watching.